Hi everyone, welcome to this session. Thank you for joining. I'm Natalie from World YMCA. This is a session being led by Rahana from YCare International and Lily from Restless Development, along with two colleagues from YMCA Madagascar. So I'm going to hand over to them and they will take us through the session. Please, throughout the session, make use of the chat box, sharing your thoughts, comments and reflections. If you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A area as well. We also are going to use some polls, so keep an eye on the polls tab. And we'll let you know, obviously the speakers will let you know if there's anything for you to answer. So over to you guys. Thank you.
Natalie, welcome to everyone in your different corners of the world. I'm Rahana and I'm the Head of International Programs and Partnerships at YCare International. I'm also joined by Ernian and Rebecca from YMCA Madagascar and Lily from Restless Development. We are all part of a consortium called the Development Alternative. You'll see our logos up on the slide right now. It's a program that's funded by the UK government, and our partners include Intrac, Integrity Action, Accountable Now, Dot Lebanon, and War Child in Iraq. We have been running a program in Madagascar, Uganda, Lebanon, and Iraq for nearly 2 years. The program is about shifting power to young people and their communities so that they themselves can lead in designing solutions to the challenges they face. It's also about young people lobbying government and other organizations who run projects to make sure they deliver on their promises and make changes to projects where needed. And it's also about bringing youth civil society organizations together to do more and better for and with young people. I will try to play a little video now which will show you more about what the program is about. And then we'll go to an interactive poll. With you in a second.
As young people, we know the biggest challenges our communities face and have some of the best ideas about how we can overcome them. But we are rarely consulted on development projects in our communities. Projects that are meant to improve our lives. It's not right and it's not effective. This is why we are changing the way governments and organizations work. It looks like this. I approached the organization who was responsible for a project in my area. They were building a new school. I told them that I wanted to help make the project better and more relevant to my community's needs. They agreed, and I got to work. I began by asking people lots of questions around how the project would affect their lives and any problems they could see. For example, I found out that there weren't enough classrooms and that there was no access for young people with disabilities. I then brought together the people running the project and my community. We had regular meetings where we talked about what wasn't working and how we could solve the issues together. And I kept a record of everything on the DevCheck app so we could track whether the issues got fixed. In the end, we made a school that truly serves the people it was made for, who are now committed to its ongoing success. This is just one of the many projects I have been involved in, and I'm not alone. We took our success stories to governments, organizations, and businesses to ensure they work closely with young people and their communities right from the start. We are putting power in the hands of communities, making sure development works for everyone. Join us at the Development Alternative.
Great. We would love to hear from you. So we're now going to move on to a poll. Natalie, if you could help us launch the poll questions, please. You'll be able to see that in the poll tab in the section under polls. So we have a question about how you're feeling today. Are you feeling inspired? Are you tired? Do you want your bed? Are you not sure? Place your votes now. Okay, the good news is that 71.4% of us are feeling inspired. That's great. Okay, let's move on to the next poll.
It's just a little time to sit. Be good to hear where everyone is communicating from today as well.
We have Kosovo online, Zimbabwe YMCA, Okay, while you're running those polls, Natalie, I will pass over to Lily so that people can continue putting in their answers while you hand over to Lily and she does her section. Is that okay? Okay, over to you, Lily.
Thanks so much, Rohana. And thanks everybody for joining. So I just wanted to discussing why we want to shift power to young people. Our whole session today is about young people and why it's important for them to create change. But I want to explore more about why we think this. So fundamentally, the Development Alternative Programme that we're all part of as the facilitators think that young people are uniquely positioned to lead change. And that can be in their communities, it could be in their countries, it can be on a global level. But they're the ones who will probably be doing that in the years to come. I wanted to explain a little bit more about the situation we're currently in and why young people are so well positioned to lead change. So at the moment in history, we are in an era of peak youth. That's a phrase we've come up with. What it means is there are more young people in the world now than there ever have been and that there ever will be. So that there ever have been due to the fact that more and more people have had children and there's now more young people than ever, but now due to access to family planning, changing in norms and many other factors, it's likely that there won't ever be this many young people in the world again. So it's a really unique moment in history. The second important fact in the kind of world we see today is that 9 out of 10 young people live in the global south. So they have a really good understanding of some of the challenges that affect young people in their day-to-day lives. Things like lack of access to education, unemployment, lots of different challenges that are affecting people around the world. So the problem that we found at the moment is that this opportunity isn't really being used. Big organizations and big governments, they're not really realizing this is a really good time to involve young people and ask them how to create change. They're not really using this expertise. actually what we've seen is that young people tend to just be seen as recipients. So if there's a big program running that supports alleviating poverty, it will all be about providing to young people, but not asking them what they think and what's working well for them. So that's where our solution comes in. We have a model for change which helps young people create change in their local communities and actually gain some power. So they're the ones leading the program. It's not a big organization or a big government. It's actually the young people there. And they're able to have a say in what works well and what doesn't work well. They're also able to work with community members so that they can really get their whole community on board. The reason why we think this is important is because it shows that actually young people can lead and they can create solutions in their communities. And they can also make their kind of programs in their area more effective. So as you saw in the video, that's exactly what we're doing. We have young people positioned around Uganda and Madagascar, working with projects that are already in their area to make them better. And that's quite different from the average kind of program. This time we've got young people leading the way and creating change. So now that I've explained a little bit more about why we think young people are so important to create this change, I want to move us on to understand some of the challenges young people are facing around the world. So in terms of the challenges young people are facing in Uganda, in 2018, Restless Development supported 24 young researchers to find out a bit more about some of these challenges. And this was on our program called the Girls Advocacy Alliance Project, if you ever want to explore more about that. We found that the highest level of unemployment in the world was in Uganda, with young people making up 80% of total unemployment in the country. We found that young women, are disproportionately affected more than young men. So we found 27% of young women were unemployed compared to 9% of young men. And we found that 80% of the respondents reported low wages, delayed payments, or even no pay at times. So there are some of the challenges we found in Uganda. In Madagascar, we found there was a lack of access to education that would lead to decent work. Only 1.7% of Madagascan young people could reach university level. We found there was limited access to vocational training opportunities that then directly moved to a job. And we found that there was a mismatch between training and the job market. So often young people were trained up in things, but they didn't translate into a clear job at the end. So there's some of the challenges we found in the two areas that we primarily work in. One thing I want to point out is that in both areas, and really across the world, we do see that there's a digital divide. That refers to the gap between those able to benefit from digital technology and those who aren't. So even though our program does use an app and digital technology, we recognize that not everyone has equal access to technology. That's a big problem in the world right now. So despite the fact that we're using it at the moment to support young people to create change, we realize that our model could still work without this, and that young people can still create change whether they have access to digital technology or not. So that's an important thing to note. Ours relies on technology at the moment. However, we could create the same model without this particular app as well. So I'm going to pass back over to Rahana to discuss our poll results.
That's great. So we have the second question up on the poll, if everyone would like to vote now, and then we can see the results that come up. and then hand over to Evnien in Madagascar. You'll see the question in the polls section. Which option best describes you? There are actually two questions that I'm going to ask. So we've got the which option best describes you. It's about your involvement in advocacy activities. And then there is a third question around the types of advocacy activities that you're involved in. Okay, we'll leave everyone to vote and come back to the results as soon as you're done. In the meantime, Evnien, over to you.
Thank you so much, Rehana. Again, good morning, everyone. My name is Evnien Ranjamalala, and I am working as a Program Executive Officer for the Madagascar YMCA. So I'm delighted to be with you here today. Today I will talk to you about the volunteer journey and the volunteer aspect work of these wonderful programs. For these programs, the volunteers and the youth leadership component is very important and take a very important aspect on this program because it aims actually to put young people in the driver's seat of any change, pulling them from this state of beneficiary and pushing them in this aspect of being this principal actor of development change. That is why the leadership aspect of the program is very important. So the volunteers' journey on this program is starting from the volunteer recruitment process, where 100 young people, more than 100 young people have been asked to showcase their potentials, asked to be in interaction with other young people, and to apply for wonderful opportunities, which is the volunteers. During this process, we started engaging our stakeholders to be in interaction with young people and also to be engaged in the process. And after the selections, we were working with 60 young people in Madagascar. Those 60 young people went through a process of training in different aspects, where personal development, leadership, civic education, and civic engagement, and the other job skills has been addressed during the training for a very long time. The first training actually lasts for 9 days, an intense training for 9 days. And after having those skills, we make sure that those young people have been pushed into practical aspect of it. So those young people are going to the field using an app called DevCheck. Lily will explain more about that later. But the young people, after getting those knowledge, those competencies, those subjective competencies, those actual competencies, actually go to the field for practical, where they are pushed to get in interaction, to close loop the problem of the communities, to talk to decision makers, to have this permanent communication with the local authorities. By using the technology. That is a very wonderful image of young people, using the technology and close loop the problem of a community and get the decision makers in account. So after this, this practical aspect of young people, the young people also could get access to many opportunities during the program, as we just explained, because the program at the same time as well as an access to education and access to opportunities as well is an opportunity for young people to get access to different jobs and different economic opportunities. But for us to have a clear idea of how is it in Madagascar and how does youth journey was been for us in Madagascar, I will ask Rihanna to play for us a video that is explain it all. Thank you.
Thank you, Evnien. Playing the video now. You seem to be struggling with the video function. Could you step in?
Hi, Rihanna. I'll try. Just give me a couple of minutes.
He's pulling that up for us. Let's move on to the DevCheck app and handing over to Lily then.
So Ian mentioned that we have something called DevCheck, and this is an app that allows young people to ask community members what they think of development projects in their area, and to go to development projects and to record all the information they find. I should note before I start talking about DevCheck that this isn't necessary to create change in your community or to record what's happening in your community. It's just a tool that we're using on this particular program, and we think there are many ways that you could recreate this without relying on digital technology. So as I said, DevCheck is an app which young people use to record data. When they visit development projects or when they speak to community members, they write down their findings in the app. This means they have a record of their findings and can hold development actors to account later on. For example, they can see a problem with a project, they can write it down, they can go and speak to them and say, this was the problem we found. And because that's recorded in the app, they're able to register it and record it until it's been fixed by those project leaders. All of this data is available for anyone in the world to see on the DevCheck website. That means that development actors have a strong motivation to fix the issues quickly, as it will show up on the website that they've resolved an issue. You could do the same, for example, if you recorded lots of different issues on a piece of paper and put it in the town hall. It's the same kind of thing. It means that development projects are keen to get it fixed quickly, as lots of people are waiting for them to fix a given issue. You can also see our interactive map. So this should be coming up in a second on your screen. There's just a link at the bottom of that presentation. And this interactive map allows you to literally click on any project that might be of interest, and to see every problem they've registered, every problem a young person has registered, as well as what has been fixed by those development projects and what they still need to fix. Don't worry if you can't find it, Rihanna, we can share it in the chat. But if you have a minute, it would be a great thing to explore. You can see all the different things that are going on in the community right now. Which young person has registered which problem, what things have been fixed, and what things haven't been fixed yet. And I'm now going to pass over to Rebecca, who's going to talk a little bit more about her experience as a young person working on the development alternative in Madagascar.
Thanks, Lily. I think Rebecca's sadly had some issues connecting, so we will ask Ernian to step in on her behalf. In the meantime, we can show the Uganda video. It's now working, so we'll play that for you.
Hi, Rihanna. Would you like me to try and see if I can play it from my screen?
Yes, please.
My name is Madagascar. I'm a volunteer with Restless Development. My volunteer experience has been amazing. It has been a very good experience for me. Through this journey, I've managed to meet fellow young people who have inspired me. I have made friends, I've met mentors through this journey. I have been able to learn how to carry out interviews, how to carry out monitoring. I've learned how to conduct myself, inspire fellow young people, which I am going to continue doing even after this experience. I'm thankful to the Restless Development team that has given me this opportunity. Thank you.
Okay. Damian, over to you.
Thank you, Hannah. Just to give a very specific example of the app DevCheck using in Madagascar is that's an app that our volunteer uses in Madagascar. Is I can give you an example of one of our our best experiences with one of our partners named Kazef. Kazef is an organization working for access to land for a farmer, and this project is funded by the World Bank. And we had two volunteers working with them in the field, which is Rebecca. She couldn't join us today. So the problems that the young people have been found during their interaction with communities and with project holders, there is a problem of communication between the farmer on the rural area and the local authorities that is the focal point for the project holder. The problem is, that there is no clear and structured communication between the beneficiaries and also the authorities that is supposed to distribute the land certificate. So our volunteer has found that through data collected on DevCheck, and actually engaged the project holder with his Kazef and reported it to Kazef. Kazef on their side have been engaged the local ministry of agriculture and livestock to find a solution. So both of them have been proposed to lead a training for the local authorities, and also to provide some materials, some mobile phone, and also some laptops, to and some access to internet, to deal with the problem of the communication between the farmer and also the local authority. This is one kind of the problems, but again, to have a clear view of what was it in Madagascar and what was it for this data collection, I will ask Rihanna to play again a video from Madagascar.
Hand over to Natalie, I think, because there have been a few tech issues. Natalie, are you able to play the Madagascar video?
Sure, I just need to get it lined up, so just 2 seconds, please.
In the meantime, we can look at some of your poll results. So it's great to see that 70% of you are involved in advocacy activities in your community and country. 30% of you are not yet involved in advocacy, but would like to get involved. And hopefully you'll learn more about how you might be able to do that through this session today. And those of you that are involved in advocacy activities, 35% are in campaigning, 35% in other, and 29% in public policy. So we've got some real activists and influencers here, which is fantastic. Please do post any questions you may have for us in the Q&A section, and we'll come to those at the end.
Rahana, if you could stop sharing, if that's okay, then I can share.
To see our volunteers in action there in Madagascar. Thank you, Natalie. Handing back over now to Ermiane.
Thank you, Rahana. Bringing these new types of development and new types of way how to engage young people to tackle development was a big issue and a big challenge for us in Madagascar. As you know, we are living in a society where young people is always stigmatized and always excluded from the overall system. So I am here to share with you at least some challenges that we faced during the implementation of this new model for change. First of all, we had the challenge of engaging the national stakeholders. For the local stakeholders, we could be able to bring an influence, but for nationals, we were a bit struggling in the fact that, we advocating for young people to bring their voice and to advocating for them to be heard was a big challenge and was one of our important challenge. So we had issues by identifying projects. We have issues by settling partnership with a national partner. So that is one of the problems. Secondly, the most problem, as you saw, is during the as explained before, the program have been implemented during the COVID-19 outbreak. So we, all of the priorities from public and private organizations have been shifted and have been focalized to the emergency responses for COVID-19. So for us leading the program, we faced a challenge because that was not a priority at the moment for the organizations. So we had the problems for the funding cuts from our donors because they have also impacted for the COVID-19. They have stressed that we made a very good job, but because of the impact of the coronavirus, the donors also have to shift and have to pivot some of their priorities. That is some of the challenge we have faced. But also the program have provided a lot of opportunities for young people, especially for young volunteers. Because of this interaction and of this new views of young people that the program have brought up in the community and in the decision makers, there are several of our young people that could have access to job opportunities. There are those ones that is working from private organization from now, and those that had access to public administration work. But also there is some opportunities, as you can see on the slide. 5 of our young people could have access to entrepreneurship funding and grants from our government, which means that they could have access to entrepreneurship training, business management training. The government gave them the land for them to exploit it on agriculture and livestock, and apart from that, they gave also loans and grants of an amount of around $10,000 for our young people to use. So that was, despite the challenge, the program has provided also some opportunities for the young people. Next of all, we will talk about advocacy on an international level, and I will hand over to Lily to lead us on this process. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Harry. So at the moment with the Development Alternative, we are involved in several international and national platforms that ensure governments and other recognize the importance and power of young people. We have lots of different things you can look at on our website, and even things that you could get involved in. But one of the things that I would like to share to you is something new that we are introducing. So at the moment, we've become part of a CSO collaborative. This has become a space in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We found that COVID-19 is hindering progress against poverty and deepening inequalities, which means that communities are being left behind as official data and statistics don't count or reflect their lives in a COVID-19 situation. Civil society organizations, or SCOs, on the other hand, are generating lots of data that could help address the gaps in official statistics and what's happening in communities. So the Civil Society Collaborative on Inclusive COVID-19 Data is working alongside communities and activists to understand the unequal effects of COVID-19 and the pandemic, and collectively advocate for an inclusive recovery. The aim of this collaborative is to increase global leaders' understanding of the situation of marginalized community members in light of COVID-19, and to motivate more inclusive action. It's also to elevate the needs and voices of marginalized people in national, regional, and global dialogue. And finally, it's to strengthen recognition of the value of data generated by civil society and citizens. So to realize that lots of good data comes from these more informal areas, and official statistics aren't quite capturing the lives of community members. So this is something we're very excited at the moment to be involved in. It's really showing that young people and community members are integral to change. Even something like COVID-19, which we're still living through at the moment, young people and community members can be incredibly important in making sure that our recovery is as inclusive as possible. We've got a couple other ways that we are influencing, which I will allow Harry to explain a bit more.
Thank you, Lily. For us on a national level, as an implementing partner, we also could have bring such an important advocacy. We were in Madagascar. We have been always consulted during the setup of our national youth policies. Our young people have been contributed to the conception of these important documents, important policy for youth development in Madagascar. So through the visibility we made through the programs, where the authorities understood that our young people is closing and is going to the community to talk with the community, they have solicited that to be part of the monitoring and evaluation committee of the youth policies. So our young people, apart from working from DevCheck, we also participated in the monitoring and evaluation process for our youth national policy. And secondly, one of the best advocacy we have made also is that because of the higher number of our volunteers that is involved in the programs, the National Coordination of Volunteerism, which is working under the aegis of the Ministry of the Communication in Madagascar, have solicited us to be part of the alignment of the volunteerism work in Madagascar. So the certificate that we have distributed to volunteer was being recognized by the Ministry of the Communication, and that was one of the best advocacy and best achievement that we have made through the program. Over to you, Rihanna.
Thank you, and thank you, Lily. We'd also like to share another initiative that we created as part of our Development Alternative Programme. We worked with young volunteers to conduct research, asking youth civil society organisations in Madagascar, Uganda, Iraq and Lebanon what they need to improve their work with and for young people. The organisations told us that they needed access to opportunities and resources and a way to connect, collaborate and learn from each other. And so we established what we call the Youth Collective. The Youth Collective helps youth organisations recognise and share their own strengths and expertise with each other. It includes an online website, you'll see the link there in the slides, which has a directory of youth organisations, data and reports. There is also a Facebook group with over 1,000 members and a newsletter where funding, training and other opportunities are circulated. One of these opportunities is an online dialogue event with donors. There's been a series of these events. Here, youth organisations and donors can share their views and learn from each other. We hope that these dialogues will build new partnerships between youth organisations and donors, ones which will help to create better resourced, more sustainable and effective youth civil society. We want a youth civil society that doesn't just survive, but that thrives. If you are part of a youth civil society organisation and would like to sign up or find out more, please email us. Our contact details will be up at the end. Which brings me to our final part. Thank you for attentively listening to us today. We would be happy to take some questions from you now. We have a few that are in the chat already, which we can take, and if you have any more, please do post them. At the same time, we will be running our final poll, and Natalie is going to bring that up for us now. So while the poll is being launched, we'll have the first question there from Rona, who is asking, if some young people do not have access to technology, then how can we shift power to those young people using it? Is there a plan in place to provide that for them? That's a really good question, Rona. I'm going to hand over to Lily and Ernien to take that, and then I can add a few of my own comments at the end.
Thanks so much, Rahana, and thank you so much for the question. I think that's a really important point and something that we were keen to share across this session, which is our particular program uses an app, but really what the app is it's a tool for recording data. And how you record data can be in a multitude of ways. Like I shared as an example, we could do this exact same program, but have big piece of paper in a town hall that everyone can see that records different issues with different development programs and whether they've been fixed or not. All it is a way to easily record what we're finding out, but there are lots of other ways to record this information. Importantly, this whole model can still work without the app. And there are lots of ways, therefore, that you could create change, not relying on this app, not relying on digital technology. I think it's about finding those community spaces where lots of people will access and be able to see that. That's where you share information, that's where you communicate with each other, whether that's a town hall, a community space, something like that. So we use an app as that kind of community space, but there's lots of other ways you can physically do that too. Maybe I'll pass over to Henyen and then Rahana to add more.
Rehana, you can add. I think Lily just covered all the points for me. So Rehana.
Thanks, Ernien. I would just support everything Lily has just said, and encourage everyone that's involved in advocacy already to continue looking for new ways in which you can engage. This project has taught us that you don't really need the app in order to engage with local decision makers and authorities. It's just a tool that's aiding the process, but you can do it without it, as Lily has just said. And if you'd like to find out more, as we said, please do contact us and we can share more. And the poll, I think, is now up. Let's see if that's up. It should be ready to go. And in the meantime, let's take a second question then from Zambia. DevCheck seems to be a very good initiative. How can we help to implement it in Zambia? Young people are available to volunteer. Lily?
Would you be able to repeat that question? I just didn't hear the last bit that you said.
Absolutely. So it's a question from Zambia asking that DevCheck seems to be a very good initiative. How can we help to implement it in Zambia? There are young people here in Zambia that are available to volunteer.
That's a great question. I think if there's a small group of young people who are interested in making change in their community, it would be easy to set up something very similar to what we do in Uganda and Madagascar. Say there's a group of you in your community and there's development projects already working in your community, but you want to make them better. The first thing you could do is start speaking to them and saying that you would love to work with them to help them understand community perspectives better, and to help them make the programs better in the communities they work with. Once you've established that relationship, you can start collaborating with them. You can speak to community members and ask them what they prefer about the programs, what they don't like about the programs, and what they would like to see in their community by some of the NGOs that already work there. You can arrange meetings with those development projects and share that information. You can suggest your own solutions to different problems that have come up. You could add kind of workshops which have community members and they have those development projects all there together and discuss some of the problems and some of what's working really well. They're the initial steps I would suggest. But what I want to say is don't hesitate to contact us if you're keen to begin something like this and you're a bit stuck of how it would practically work. But that's my suggestion. My first step would be to speak to those existing NGOs or government projects in your area and say that you would really like to work with them to make them better. And then also to start speaking with your community members and hearing what they think. And maybe I wonder, Rahana or Harry, if you have anything more to add on that as well.
Thank you, Lily. Just to say that the contact details are now up on the slide, so please do feel free to contact us. We are drawing to a close now. There seems to be a couple more questions. I'm sorry that we couldn't get to them all. Let's see if we can squeeze one more in before we hand back over to Natalie to close. Thank you all for being so engaged and so patient with all the technical difficulties that we experienced along the way, but we hope you have taken something away from this session, and we look forward to continuing to engage with you post-summit, so please do contact us. Let me try and get one of these questions from Rowan Cardinal. Is it possible to connect with you? Absolutely. Rowan from the Philippines, thank you. In a country where internet access and data has a high price and slow connectivity, how can we inspire and influence digital participation? Hermione and Lily, maybe a final line from you, a final response from you on that, and then we'll hand over to Natalie to close.
Thanks so much. I think that it's difficult because we want to acknowledge that digital technology isn't essential to any of these, to our program or any programs that create change. And as a young person, you absolutely don't need digital technology to make a difference in your community. However, it does obviously invite different ways to create change. And there are lots of advances in technology. What I think works really well on the development alternative is that we use digital technology as a tool, but on the other hand, we also advocate on an international platform for young people having greater ability to access technology. So what I would suggest to any young person is both to create change and not rely on digital technology if that's not accessible, but lobby those international and national platforms to say that young people need to be participating in the great strides that are happening globally, where we are moving towards a more digital world. It's kind of I think a twofold approach. And maybe Harry, I'll pass over to you.
I don't have anything to add more, Lily. I think you have covered.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you again to everyone who's joined us today from your different corners of the world. We will hand over to Natalie now to close.
Thank you, Rahana, Lee, and Eliane. Thank you. That all of the presentations will be available on the World YMCA website, YouTube page. So you'll have access to all the presentations if you were not able to see from the beginning or if there were some technical issues. And thank you again for all our amazing speakers. Thank you everyone for your time and for watching. And I think the next plenary session is probably about lunchtime. So head over to the plenary session for the next keynote speakers. There's obviously lots and lots of breakout sessions that are happening this afternoon as well for the kind of USA, Canada participants as well once they wake up. And also check out the event schedule. And don't forget, there's more than 12 hours of on-demand workshops and training sessions that are available online as well. I think those are in the expo area. So thank you again.